Hi guys, so welcome to the Product Onboarders Quick Tips series, where we ask SaaS leaders about their own onboarding experiences, their own journeys, challenges, and what they've learned along the way, so we can steal an idea or two. I'm joined today by Jeroen. Did I how well?
Jeroen.
How Jeroen?
Yeah.
I've been practicing it all day and I still didn't get it right. Jeroen, co-founder of Salesflare. Salesflare is a B2B CRM, hugely popular, smashed it out of the park on Product Hunt, huge ratings on G2. So, Jeroen, did I get it better? Maybe you can introduce Salesflare.
Yeah.
Better? Maybe you can introduce yourself and Salesflare a little bit better than I can.
Yeah, okay. So yes, I'm Jeroen Corthout, co-founder and CEO of Salesflare. Salesflare is, like you said, it's a B2B CRM. It's strictly a B2B sales CRM because it's a bit more focused on sales than on everything. We focus on small and medium-sized businesses, and particularly we have a lot of agencies and tech startups on the software, of which a lot of SaaS companies as well. When you compare us with other systems, probably a lot of them already came to mind, because there are a lot of them. I think there's like 600 plus or something. We make a difference in making it super easy for you to keep your CRM up to date. So we actually started when we were trying to follow up a lot of leads ourselves. And I had been working many years with Salesforce and knew that it wasn't really a practical sales tool. It was more of a system with which the company could organize a lot of their stuff in a good way. Very interesting for management, but for me as a salesperson, I didn't really use it as a practical sales tool, and I tried. And then when we had a lot of leads at a software company we were working on, we looked for a better way to follow up these leads, and we found that a lot of the things we were actually doing in a CRM, we tried a few at that moment, was duplicating information that was already in another place. And then we thought, like, why are we doing this? This information is already in our mailbox, it's already in our calendar, it's already in our phone, it's already in social media, there's stuff in your in databases about companies, all these kind of things. What if we build software that pulls this all together in such a way that it brings it to you and you can simply sort of curate it, and it keeps itself up to date. And there was always a big aspect also of tracking to it, like email tracking, opens, clicks, website visits, so that everything gets mapped automatically for you.
I think one of the, I was refreshing my mind on your website today, and I think one of the testimonials that slapped me in the face was the CRM that fills itself out. And I also had used Salesforce back in my sales rep days, so I've definitely felt that pain where it feels more like a burden for the salesperson to have to do it, and you're badgered all the time by management to do it, and it's just not a pleasant experience with that old style CRM. So yeah, I've definitely felt that pain. So the reason we wanted to have a chat specifically about onboarding was that earlier this year you told me that you were going to enter into some experiments on Salesflare yourself and see if you could change anything about your own onboarding. So tell me what triggered that, what set you off on the experiment journey?
A few things. So we basically look at all the things we can grow in a particular year. What is quite hard for us within the CRM space is really growing the amount of leads we get fast. And where we felt that we also still had a lot of space was improving our onboarding. So there's a few things very special about a CRM onboarding. First of all, a lot of people are simply shopping around for CRMs. They just make an account to have a look, and then they like, this looks good, or this does look good. They don't do anything. They don't feel how it works, but they just go have a look. And another thing is, it's a bit more of a complex thing. Getting set up with a CRM. It's not just a thing where you do this and that and you're completely set up with the software and it all works. You need to go through a series of steps. And sort of these things together make that onboarding is very important for us. And that we give it a lot of attention. Of course, you can do all the basic things, but there's so much beyond that. So 2 experiments that I can share about already is one where we try to show the software without you having to make an account.
Okay.
Which makes it easier for the shoppers, let's say, to have a look. It lowers the barrier there. We sort of convince people more with showing our product, which is also, when you see how it works, that's sort of where it makes a difference also, which is hard to convey in a site. So what we did is, currently it's still even running actually, because we're trying to collect more data, more all the way through the life cycle, let's say. When you go to the website and you hit sign up, 50% of the chances it will ask you to connect your emails, and 50% of the chances it will get you straight into the product, and then it will show you the product. You can go through there, and it's our fully custom walkthrough where we show how Salesflare works and what the value of all the things is that it does, like very early on. And then when it sends you through this whole flow, at the moment that you drag your opportunity to 1 and you get the fireworks and all that, that's when when you ask you to connect your emails if you want to continue. And then it seems very seamless. So it shows you the product, you drag the things, fireworks, and then a pop-up comes, connect your emails. When you connect your emails, it's like you stay in the product and everything is the same, but you have your own account now. The mistake we made there with this experiment was that we didn't track it properly. We tracked how many people would create an account, like how that would change a trial account. In our initial test, that actually went a bit down.
Right.
Now that we're testing further, it stays the same. It's the same amount of people that make a trial account in both versions at the moment, which is a good thing, because what we believe is that we get more qualified leads, because if people didn't like the first view and the walkthrough, they're like, I don't know. Then, I mean, we get them out, and the ones that actually then connect your emails, that felt like it was a good experience, are supposed to be more qualified. Now we started adding tracking for that, all the way through to paid accounts, but there in the tracking again, something really weird happens. We're currently, we're currently looking at fixing that because we lost quite some data, especially on the ones that got the walkthrough first.
So normally, how long do you normally know if somebody has signed up that was maybe not a best fit client? How long does it take for them to churn out usually? Do you have like a rough idea on time, or is there a particular event that or step they don't take after syncing their emails that okay, this wasn't a best fit lead, so then we would chalk this up to not the best way to onboard? Is there a particular event, time span? How do you decide on that?
You mean people that are not a fit, how quickly they leave and all that?
Yeah, so you mentioned like the walkthrough version that they get instead of like having to go in and connect their email, is maybe for the window shoppers that may not be such qualified leads anyway. So how do you, at what point do you say, at what point usually do people get that value and therefore you feel like they're going to stick with the product? Maybe that's a better way to put it. At what point do you sort of get, so I was flipping it on its head, like at what time do you know they were a bad fit? But maybe the better question is, at what point do you know they're a good fit and they're likely to stick around?
We measure that in terms of how many customers they follow up in the software. Let's say that about 50%, maybe even 60, does not follow up any customer through the software, does not create any company to follow up. Those are the pure window shoppers. They just make an account and then just click on all the screens and then like, oh, these screens look good, and then get out. The rest creates at least one. I think it's about 20% that gets to the threshold of 7 or 8 customers that they put in the software, which is when we feel like, okay, they're really getting to a point. And when people do that, then we are more than 50% sure already that they're gonna subscribe. But if they don't get to that point, then they weren't really using the software. And chances are rather low that they will subscribe. So yeah, that's how we mostly know. The ones that went window shopping, it's really they probably spend a few hours in the software, if even. I mean, they might keep it open for a bit because it's just some clicking and that's it. The ones that actually start using, we see that if people stay for a week on our software, that after that it's pretty much, I mean, it doesn't change much anymore. It's really in that very first period where a lot of the dropout happens.
So like that first run experience sounds really important. That first run experience of right, now I'm connecting and now I'm gonna take action on the next step right now. It sounds like that's really important in Salesflare to kind of keep them in the software as long as possible on that first run. Is that right?
That's right. And that's why we did this. Maybe a good transition to the second experiment that we did.
Okay, great.
Which is we made a sort of a setup guide in the software. So let's go back to where we were. So you get the fireworks and all, and then it says connect your emails. And then when you connect your emails, it lands in Salesflare, and then the bottom left, a little setup guide opens.
Okay.
And that says, congratulations, you just won 7 days on your trial by signing up. And here's 11 more steps you can go through. Okay. And for each of these steps, you get extra days. So if you connect your calendar, that's 1 day, I think. You install the mobile app, that's 1 day. If you invite colleagues, that's 4 days. And like that, you can get to a trial of about 30 days. This setup guide, if you click on one of the steps, it takes you to the place where you need to complete the step, and it minimizes into a small thing. And if you complete the step, then it's auto crosses it off and says next. Excellent. And then you can click again and do the next thing.
That sounds quite exciting. So like that's tweaking quite a lot of psychological, putting quite a lot of psychological strings in people's brains about, task completion and gamifying something. And when people see that you're on the one hand, you're rewarding them, right? So, that's the obvious dopamine hit, but there's also some psychology around people feeling that they are accomplishing things and they can see what they need to check off a list. And when people start checking things off of a list, they feel like they're in. It's kind of like a bit of a commitment. Like we don't like to, psychologically, humans don't like to go back on what they have kind of committed on. So once they've given that commitment, then you would hope that they would keep giving that commitment. But I guess the experiment results will tell me whether all my excitement is bearing out.
That's definitely what we see. If you look at the results, there are some of the tasks that people still do the same amount of times, and that's the easier ones at the beginning. It doesn't happen way more often, a little bit. There's for instance, like I think that we are currently at about 10% or so that creates that get to this threshold that we talked about earlier, of them really using the product to follow up their customers. But then if you look at the steps that are lower into the setup guide, like inviting your colleagues, I think creating a custom field, importing data, there's like a few like that, which are normally things that people don't do that often, but that are quite heavily correlated with long-term success. And partly short-term success in the sense of subscribing to our software. These happen way more often, and I'm talking about from 30% to 250% more times that these things happen.
Wow.
So,
that's a huge uplift. And then is it going to take a little while? I don't know how long you've had this set up, but it sounds like the first one experience and then getting through those steps doesn't really take people very long. I mean, that's part of the point of Salesflare, right? Is that these things don't really take very long, but you know, perhaps people are used to CRMs being a pain to set up and you know, getting over that hurdle. But it sounds like this experiment might be the winner. Have you settled on that yet, or are you still? I know you've got tracking stuff still ironing out with the other ones.
We definitely keep it live. Yeah. We see a huge improvement. Also, a thing that we were slightly afraid of is that it would lengthen the sales cycle. So from trial to paid, it did in a certain way, but not really. Like if you look at the median length of the sales cycle, it became much longer. But if you look at the average, which is what mathematically is important to us, it stayed about the same.
Okay.
This is because we have more people who subscribe early on. And then where we would normally see in the old version, where we'd have a 14-day trial with a possible extension, we would have a lot of subscriptions between day 12 and 14, like just before the trial ended.
Gonna do it just before the end. Yeah. People forget about that people are gonna wait until the very end of having the free bit. Keep nurturing them.
That sort of shifted a bit later, because we give, if they set it up well,
it's already up front that, you know, you're going to get this extension if you do X, Y, and Z, I guess, right? So maybe like instead of that last minute rush, you know, in the UK we have the drinking laws where everyone's supposed to finish their drink by 11, and then suddenly everyone's buying like an armful of beers at the last minute. Instead, you know, extending the laws out means people sort of trickle in a bit more slowly with those beer buying habits. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's really exciting. So I mean, how can people, I guess people won't know what they're going to get, right? At the moment you're running
with the walkthrough
versions.
thing. No, if you want to force that, if you would get the sign up page immediately, then just replace the word sign up in the URL with walkthrough.
Okay.
And you'll get the other version.
Okay. Right. Well, guys, you heard it here. You can go and have a play and see if you can force the walkthrough version and mess up their experiment numbers.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because you want more of that. You want some more statistical anomalies.
Apparently, yeah.
So that's really helpful. That's really exciting. And I hope that some people get some inspiration from that, other SaaS founders and growth marketers out there who are struggling with some of their own onboarding challenges. So one final question, what's next for Salesflare?
Currently, we're working on some functionality for slightly larger companies. We have a permissions thing coming up. Salesflare by itself is built for transparency, but there's a lot of people who still want to restrict that this person only sees his data or the team data or cannot see certain pipelines and all.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, custom insights. And these things will come in a more expensive plan. We've been we've been with one plan for 5-6 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And we're adding higher ones so that we can make some more money quickly from people who actually want to pay for this functionality.
So has that come from people asking you if that's possible? Did that come from externally, or was that more of an internal? Where did you get the idea that was the next place?
The more expensive plan?
Mm-hmm.
People don't ask to pay more. That doesn't happen.
But they ask for a problem to be solved. So were they
ask for a problem to be solved? Yeah. Well, we have a huge database of problems that they ask us to be solved, and these are some of the bigger ones, and that also happen more with slightly larger companies with some more budgets. So we figured that this could be good to ask some more money for, and so far, of all the people I've talked to, generally they agree with that. Some people, I mean, it always happens if you ask to pay more, but.
Well, you want how painful is the problem? You know, that's the other question, isn't it? How painful is their problem? You know, and how much time, energy, sanity is spent, you know, on their part not having that problem solved versus paying a little bit more to have that taken away for them. So, you know, if they really, really want it, then, and, you know, and if the problem is painful enough, then yeah, sure, people pay for things. If people wouldn't pay for things, then we wouldn't be able to, you know, we wouldn't be sitting here now. I wouldn't have a webcam and a microphone.
True.
So that's really exciting. So thank you so much. I'm really excited to go and force the walkthrough version and have a look at the onboarding style myself, because I went through and looked at a previous one of your other versions before. So yeah, I'm going to go and have a play around with that myself, and I encourage other people. You know, hopefully most of the people watching this are going to be in SaaS and would be your ideal customers, so they should go and have a little check it out themselves, check out Salesflare, or maybe play roulette and just hit the button and see which version you get. That would be great.
Yeah, you'd have to take an incognito window, go see what you get, close incognito window, try again.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, thank you so much. Really excited to hear about your experiments and the data and where you're going next. Yeah, definitely some cool takeaways for people there. Thanks again for joining me, and yeah, hopefully catch up with you soon and find out a little bit more about what happens in the life cycle of these customers further down the line.
Yeah, same. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.